everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Solo Female Travel podcast. Today, I am here with Anne. So, Anne is a professional marketer. She's a traveler, a writer, and a filmmaker. She's the author of the upcoming book Passport Ready, which is the ultimate guide to solo female travel. So, and she's actually editing the book right now, which is very exciting, and I'm like super happy. I'm proud of you. So that's
Thanks for having me on.
no, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So before we jump into talking about the book and all the amazing things you have to share, I want to start by asking you about your story. Like, how do you went into solo traveling and like the countries you have been to and all that.
Right, so my solo female travel journey started around late 2015, and I randomly came across a solo female travel blog. It was actually Adventurous Kate. She's quite a well-known solo female traveler in the community, and I actually can't even remember what I was searching for or how I found her blog or why. But when I did find it, I just devoured it. I just sat there with a cup of coffee and read article after article, and I was like, I cannot believe this woman, saved all this money and went on this huge backpacking trip. And after I found her, it was kind of like spiraling down a rabbit hole. I found so many other solo female travelers, and I was just so inspired. I caught the wanderlust bug straight away. And it wasn't too soon after that when I got the courage, and after understanding a little bit more about solo female travel safety and budget travel and all those things, that I actually booked my first solo trip. And that was to Budapest, Hungary. And I didn't really know a lot about Budapest other than it's kind of a hotspot for Brits to have their crazy hen and stag do's. But having actually been myself, I can attest that it's so much more than that. So much culture, so much history, amazing food, just a really lovely city. And actually, whenever somebody says to me, oh, I'm going on my first solo travel trip, in Europe, where should I go? I always say Budapest because it's just such a lovely place. It's affordable. There's so much to see and do. So that was my very first trip. And I just wanted to go somewhere that was a little bit more familiar, a little bit more close.
Right.
And then I kind of jumped around Europe throughout the years. I went to Rome, Berlin, Cologne, Copenhagen, and just basically like building my confidence.
Right.
And then finally, in July of 2018, that's when I really took the leap and went to Bali, Indonesia.
Oh my God.
And the reason I actually went to Bali specifically was because I really wanted to do my open water paddy. I'd kind of started reading about scuba diving and was very interested. So I actually did my open water paddy on the island of Nusa Lembongan in Bali. And then I came back to the Bali mainland and went to Ubud, which, if you're ever scan through Instagram and you see a lot of Bali pictures, a lot of them are from Ubud, and it's just a very beautiful, just a stunning place. The rice paddies, and all of that good Instagram stuff. And then after Bali, I decided that I was ready to take a big trip, to really do something a little bit more out there. And that's when I started planning and saving for a 1 month trip. And I knew that I could take a little bit more of an extended time off because I'd been at my workplace for a good, almost coming to 3 years at this point. So when I asked them, like, look, can I take a little bit more of an extended time off? They were okay with that. And it was actually January of this year that I spent a month in Thailand and Cambodia. And I was very lucky to enjoy Thailand and Cambodia just as coronavirus kind of started her world tour and, turned our lives upside down.
Yeah.
So I came back in early February, just as things were kind of kicking off. But it was my time in Thailand and Cambodia really, it was so different from all of my other trips because I reflected about my life in a way that I don't think I've ever done on any other trip. And I can really say that I came back from that trip a completely different person. It was just very soulful, very reflective, and made me think about where I am now and where I want to go in the future. So that's kind of like a brief summary of my solo travel journey so far.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, definitely when it's crazy, right? Like you're in a certain state of mind before going on your trip, then you are on your trip, so many things happen, and then you come back and yeah, you feel like a whole different person. And I
Yeah,
always say that to me, like traveling and traveling solo is one of the best therapies in the world.
yeah, for sure.
And yeah, so you're based in London, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, she's explaining about Europe and like how she started there to build her confidence. Like, oh, we never said where she's based.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
okay.
And also, I just want to reiterate that I did do all of that while having a full-time job. I feel like there's
Okay.
this narrative that's built in the travel community that you have to quit your job and travel the world. You don't. I was just very clever about holiday days, very clever about when I booked, and using all the tactics that you do to keep your travel costs down, staying in hostels, booking just outside of peak season, and all of that stuff. So I did do it while having a full-time job. I didn't have to quit my job.
Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people think that, oh, to travel you just have to, leave everything behind and just go. And it's like, no, I mean, you can do it both ways. You can also still keep working as like being like you, like being smart about your time off and about your saving and like traveling cheap, and then you can do it. That's also I have done it both ways. So
Mm.
like once you start traveling, it's like you just want to keep on going. And but yeah, sometimes you have
Yeah.
to understand that you still need a job to pay the bills and work on your career and all that.
Yeah.
So well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction to your travels. That was amazing. So now I want to know more like about your book. Like what's your book, Passport Ready, which is coming up pretty soon. What is it about? Like why is the ultimate guide to solo traveling? Yeah.
Right. So one of the well, the number one question that I've been asked ever since I started solo traveling was, how do you do it? And I just assumed that, common sense is common knowledge and everybody would just kind of know how to do it. But I found that that's just not the case because I consistently get asked this question. So after I came back from Thailand and Cambodia, I just thought, I keep getting asked all these questions. Why don't I just write a book and tell everybody everything I know, from my perspective? And the book is there's kind of three different aspects to the book. There's general travel advice, and I take you from the moment you decide to start traveling, everything that you do during the booking process, the actual traveling process, and even when you come home. So, like dealing with reverse culture shock and kind of getting used to everyday life again. Sorry. And then the second aspect of the book is actual solo female travel stories. And I have stories from 18 different travelers. I'm very lucky to be having Eva Zu Beck writing forward. Eva is an amazing traveler. I think she's amassed we're coming to almost 600,000 followers across YouTube and Instagram in just 2 years. And I think what's really set her apart from a lot of other travel vloggers and Instagrammers is that she goes to places where a lot of people don't go. She's traveled to Syria. She's horsebacked, through the wilderness in Mongolia. So I think
Wow.
she's really pushed the limits of not just what women can do within the travel community, but just what anybody is doing right now. So I'm very fortunate to be having her write the forward, and I also have other amazing travelers as well, like Natasha, who started Dame Traveler, which is a huge online community for solo female travelers. So there's that part as well, all of the stories from solo female travelers. And I thought that was really important to have that in the book so that people could actually see other women that have done it and heard their stories. And all of the stories are so different. And then the third aspect of the book is just general resources. So other places that you can go beyond the book for information and to help you kind of through your travel journey.
Wow, that's amazing. That wow. Okay, because it's just so great. I'm just like amazed by everything you say, because like you're bringing like these women to share their stories, kind of like encouraging other women to do the same, and then also you're offering resources, because sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, I want to, do my research before I travel, and there is so much information on the internet that you're just like, where should
Yeah.
I start?
Yeah, where should I start? Where should I go? Who do I believe? Everybody has their own different take on it. So I've really tried to condense that. Even when I, for example, talk about booking tickets, instead
Mm-hmm.
of giving you 100 different websites where you can book your tickets, I've just focused on one website and how can you utilize that website to get your cheap tickets, as opposed to giving you 100 different links to go to 100 different places. I don't think that's useful for anyone. So I've really tried to, I've given as much information as possible, but I've tried to condense it to make it easily digestible.
Wow. Okay. And then also you should mention, told me before that something that you're also adding on the book as part of the stories is kind of like the downside of traveling solo. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what can you share with us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, and just to be clear, I haven't added that in the book in any way to
Oh,
put people off of traveling.
okay.
It's just about giving people a realistic outlook, because I
Got
think
it.
if you know the downsides and you know things that are going to get thrown at you, you can deal with them a lot more easier and they don't ruin your trip. So one of the first things that I faced when I went to Bali was travel burnout. And I think it was maybe the eighth or ninth day. I had been out in the sun for way too long. I actually think I did have heat stroke, minor heat stroke, and it was just like my energy just drained out of me. And there was one particular day where I couldn't do anything. I was just in bed all day, and that was when I kind of learned, you do have to pace yourself, make sure you're, drinking water, don't be out in the heat of the sun or right in the middle of the day for too long. All of these things that you must do to keep yourself healthy.
Good.
And also, other basic things like how to stay safe when you're eating street food so you don't get sick. Things like, or not even just street food, just in general. In fact,
Yeah.
when I was in Thailand earlier this year, the one time I got sick, it was because of restaurant food. And I knew there was something wrong with the restaurant food, and I didn't follow my own advice. And I got a runny tummy, a little bit of a runny tummy. So yeah, things like that, just like looking out for your health,
Yeah.
for personal safety. Obviously, for women, the number one thing we worry about is assault and being harassed. So just like
Yeah.
general advice on how to to look out for yourself. And also I think the number one thing that I would say is trying not to look at travel as the end all and be all, because I think there was a time when I did, and I put too much of my worth on whether or not I was traveling, where I'd been, how many countries I'd been to. So I look at all of those aspects as well.
Wow, that's amazing, and definitely those are topics that you don't usually hear about. It's mostly about the positive outlook, and then yeah, it was amazing and this and that. But I think it's great you're doing that, because then it's like people can set, I mean, the right expectations. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely travel burnout. Like I have so many stories about that, because it's like I want to do everything the first 2 weeks, and then I'm like, and yeah, and it's kind of sad, because like my last Southeast Asian trip, I was just like traveling, and then yeah, and then motorcycles and doing this and that and like swimming. And then there was a point that where I was in an island in Malaysia that I was just sleeping all the time. That the people
yeah,
that were traveling with me were like, "Why are you sleeping so much?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can move. I just need to sleep." And
yeah.
um,
You have to pace yourself. So like one of
yeah,
the things that I've learned to do is, if I go for a full day mountain trek one day, the next day I'll maybe have a massage in the afternoon or do a cooking class
yeah,
or a yoga class, something that's just a little bit more calm and doesn't require so much energy. So just being clever about what you do on what day, so that you can still do things, but you're not doing anything that's going to drain your energy for doing really high energy things every single day.
Yeah, that's true. And it's so funny that how applies to every aspects of our life, not even only traveling.
Yeah.
It's just like every time you just start a new hobby or even at work, like just pace yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And then yeah, about the food is, I mean, yeah, definitely like you're exposing your body to, you know, new smells, new food, new hygiene. So
Or just,
yeah,
just to explain actually what happened in that incident.
yeah.
Number one, the food came out incredibly quickly,
Oh no.
a little bit too quickly, and it was also quite cold. And this was meant to be a warm dish. It was also seafood. So my guess was that the food had maybe been sitting there for a while, and they just kind of heated it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's honestly just safety 101, food safety
Yeah.
101. That was complete stupidity on my part, just not listening to my instincts. So, yeah, just as a warning to anyone, if the food comes out too fast, if it's not warm when it should be, that's a sign.
Yeah, no, definitely. And mostly if it is seafood, I feel that seafood like has to, you know, be cooked in the right way.
Yeah.
Wow. And then about the safety and harassment, have you had like a horror story about it or like a just an uncomfortable moment?
To be honest, I mean, I won't go into detail about it, but I have had incidences of harassment before. But the sad thing is that not anything different than I've actually experienced in London.
Mm,
And the reality of this is that I feel like sometimes we want to make this a thing of solo female travel safety,
yeah.
but it's actually just our reality as women, wherever we are in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously one has to be a little bit more careful when
Yeah.
you're abroad, but it's just our reality wherever we are as we
Yeah.
navigate the world as women, unfortunately.
That's true. That's true. Once I was researching about that, and then I found some really very scary stats here in the States about women harassment, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And like I never felt like I've had like kind of like funny stories about it, like I don't know, like a very small Vietnamese guy like was walking by me and jumped trying to kiss me, but I don't know, it's like that, but I found that funny because he was so small. That was just like I don't know how to feel about this. I
Yeah.
don't. But yeah, no, definitely, but definitely, yeah. We gotta look out for our safety when we're traveling and also when we're at home, and then, yeah, and hopefully there comes the day where you know we don't have to worry about these things.
Yeah. Just for the record, though, statistically, tourists are generally most likely to be harmed in traffic incidents or accidents related, anything involving alcohol, drugs, also drowning, any like water-related incidents. Those are kind of like the top killers for tourists and things that you should be careful about. Sexual assault is actually a lot further down the list.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, is there anything else, any closing thought you would like to add before ending the episode?
Um, Nothing other than my bit. So people often ask me, what's your biggest regret regarding travel? And honestly, my biggest regret is just not starting sooner.
Yeah.
Just not starting sooner, not giving myself this gift of travel, especially being someone who is privileged enough to afford it. Not everybody is. Yeah, my biggest regret is not starting sooner, and it's one of the reasons why I've gone out of my way to document my travels, whether it's on Instagram or on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel as well, where I document all of my travels. And I just want to hopefully be someone that inspires someone else the same way that Solo Female Traveler, whose blog I came across, inspired me.
You're doing that already. It's like all your Instagram posts are so beautiful. I love reading your captions. Um, like I just have to throw this, and I love the post about your mom. I like what you said about her and her story. And I'm like, no wonder why she's so strong and doing everything she's doing right now. I mean, her mom set the example for
Yeah.
her doing all this. So can you please tell us what's the name of your? I will put them in the description anyways. But like, what's the name of your Instagram and your webpage and your YouTube channel? And then I know also you have a podcast where you can share it with us as well.
Sure. So my Instagram is on the go with AC. And if you type that into Google, sorry, not Google, into YouTube, in the search box in YouTube, my YouTube travel channel will come up as well. And my website is onthegowithac.com. And my podcast is Overview. And that's just, that has some, it's going to have some travel on it, but it's just general, amazing women talking about different aspects of their lives.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Annie. It was amazing talking to you.
Amazing talking to you as well.